I'm Alice. I'm taking Wellness and Self Care at the University of Cincinnati, and I am wondering if I could ask you a few questions on meditation/mindfulness.
Yeah, sure.
Would you like to introduce yourself?
Sure. My name is Brooke. I am a Christian and a Young Life leader and a member of my church. So the main way that I experience and practice meditation is through my spiritual life.
And that is how we met as well, pretty much, is through Young Life. So we both kind of apply these practices in similar ways. So to start out, what is meditation/mindfulness to you, and how do you apply it?
Yeah, so I think that meditation can be, honestly, a variety of things, but I feel like it has to do with quieting your mind and quieting your soul. But I think that what that can look like can be a little bit different depending on the person. So sometimes it looks like fixating on a particular verse of scripture, or for me, like that might be a place that I would start, is like if I was, for example, trying to memorize a piece of scripture, or just a piece of scripture was being called to my mind, I might write it down or think about it or say it out loud and then try to just dwell and think about that verse specifically. Or other times I will sit in silence and I'll ask that the Lord would just guide my thoughts. Other times I will have a song in my mind that reminds me of a particular memory. Just today we were in church and we were taking communion, but I was thinking about a specific verse, and as I was thinking about that verse, a memory was called to mind of a place that I like to go. I really like to run by the river, and I was just thinking and praying as I was like reimagining the experience that I do so often of running by the river, and just like praying over different aspects of that. And I think that that's meditation also, because my soul was quiet. It was just a memory that the Lord allowed me to think about and connect with Him through. So I think sometimes it's very visual for me. Like I'll close my eyes and imagine, or like relive things. It can also be very like therapeutic and for me to like relive maybe past experiences or past memories and try to process them through.
Yeah.
Also.
What would you say is the most stressful aspect of your life currently?
The most stressful aspect of my life currently is grad school. I'm currently in school to get my master's of nursing, and it's tough.
Do you often apply this prayer / form of meditation that you do in the time of that you need it?
Yeah, it's funny and sad to admit, but my classmates give me a hard time. Sometimes it's hard, but there's an example just this semester where I was working with one particular classmate for probably 10 hours on a project that should have taken us maybe 1 or 2, and there were multiple times that I actually had to excuse myself and go sit in a quiet place to collect my thoughts, to pray, to sit quietly, to ask the Lord for help, and then go back in so I would be kind to this person and patient and love them well. But yeah, sometimes it happens like that. Other times, just like as I prepare to go to my day at the hospital or anything like that, sometimes as I drive, I like prepare my mind by just quieting it before I start.
Is there oftentimes a specific amount of time that it takes to meditate, or?
It depends on how anxious I am. If I am coming into it from a place of rest, it's pretty easy. But if I'm coming into it from a place of anxiety or stress, or maybe really not desiring time with the Lord, I think that it takes me a lot longer.
Yeah.
So,
do you think it affects your behaviors and how you have like an outlook on life?
Yeah.
Kind of like you just said, to go into loving that person again, working on that project affects you in a positive way.
Yeah. If I sit down and spend time in quietness and in prayer and in meditation and thinking about scripture and reflecting on things, just communing with the Lord, I think that it definitely changes the way that I live my life. And I think that other people, honestly, I know other people notice the difference from when I have spent time versus when I haven't.
Can you remember a specific time in your past where you might not have done this, and then the turning point of when you started to meditate, the differences?
It's been in the time of me knowing you. Whenever I started belly time. is really what it is. Belly time is
Belly time.
a time spent on my knees in prayer. We call it belly time just because it's silly, and a lot of people spend it on their knees, but I just get tired, so I sit on my stomach. So yeah, I don't know, probably sometime between my sophomore and my junior year of college, I would imagine. I think when I was a newer believer, I wasn't really considering my faith as like a communion experience, like that I could intimately know and be in communication and direct relationship with God, but instead I was just kind of trying to figure out who he was and what I thought about it. But I think the turning point for me was just kind of realizing that like my relationship with the Lord was a relationship to be cultivated and pursued, and so that looks like spending time in quiet and prayer.
So if I was a Christian and I per se don't have belly time on my own, would you recommend it, and how would you recommend getting used to it / started to it?
Yeah, well, belly time might be kind of intimidating if you aren't into that. That might seem like a really intense place to start. I would say that if you were a Christian who wanted to begin trying to meditate, that I would say that you should pick a piece of scripture just to think about. You should turn off your phone, go to a quiet place, and somewhere that's like free of distraction. I really like to lock my door, which is funny because like nobody's gonna come in anyways, but something about like actually locking my door and turning my phone off and like just having like my night lamp on instead is like a really peaceful environment for me, and I know that I'm not leaving that place until my time with the Lord is done. So I would say just like creating an environment that you feel like you can actually rest in, or if that's not your house and it's like maybe you go for a walk and you leave your phone in the car or whatever. But I think at first you kind of have to like get all of your thoughts out. Like there has to be some release of all of the things that are in your mind before you can actually quiet it. So
right,
it might take a little while at first, you know.
That was going to be my next question. Do you oftentimes during meditation, do you like to clear your mind fully, or do you actually like to sit and like look on the things that you're trying to relax out and calm down?
I have a daily practice of journaling, and when I journal, it's kind of interesting because the way that my time spent goes is that I'll sit down, I'll open my journal, I'll vomit out all of my thoughts, and then I'll open up scripture, I'll read scripture, I'll digest it, I'll think about it, whatever. I might go on with my day then, just depending on what time of day it is. But then if I come back to it to meditate, at that point I've already journaled. I might have already worked out that day. Working out is a great time for me to think about my angry thoughts.
Yes.
So then by the time that I go to get quiet, hopefully I've already kind of done that release of all of my uncharted emotions that maybe don't really make a lot of sense. So I'm hoping at that point that my mind might not be so clouded, you know?
Yeah. Do you think meditation can be accomplished just in a quiet room, or do you think you could also somehow meditate while working out or running, or can it be accomplished in other environments other than just quiet?
Yeah, I think that, I guess actually when I said that my first experience meditating was in college, I think that that's maybe when it became a practice, like a conscious practice. But I think that when I was in high school, I was a newer believer, and something that was really peaceful for me was rowing. And it's very intense sport, but it's kind of like running.
Yeah.
But something about it is that it's a very repetitive movement, so you can somehow quiet your mind in the midst of that too. So I used to really like praying during that, and I think it was a similar process. Like you can close your eyes while you row, and just get quiet for a little while. So yeah, I think you can definitely do it while you're out and moving, or when you're walking or running, or
how do you multitask that quietness while rowing, or someone yelling at you while how do you balance that when you're trying to quiet things down when things are probably escalating at the same time?
That's a good question. I think that's tough. Sometimes I think that our brains are really quick to like fixate on a noise or a sound or a rhythm. Mine is. So I think that sometimes if I, like in rowing in particular, I can hear the sound of like the oars clicking as we're moving, and I would just pick that noise to listen to. So everything else seemed quieter. So I don't know if that's like something that only my brain does, or if that's something that other people's brains do.
Yeah.
But I definitely have the tendency to fixate on noises. So sometimes I'll just pick, if there's a lot of sounds, I'll just pick one.
Yeah.
And if I just listen to the rhythm of one thing, it's enough to kind of like let me kind of drown out the rest, you know?
Yeah. And if you had any other advice to anyone that hasn't tried meditation or prayer or anything like that, what kind of advice would you give them?
I would say just to try it. I think that it's worthwhile. I think that it's good. I feel like our life is busy and this world is busy. So getting a place that's not so chaotic in your brain is, I think, really worthwhile. I think it makes you look different than the rest of the world, too.
Affects your behaviors, affects how you react with others and stuff like that.
If we're a place of rest, like, I think we'll automatically look a lot different than the rest of the world. So
It's not so crazy in your mind then.
yeah.
All right, well, that's all I got for you. Do you have anything else?
Nope.
All right. Thank you for your time.
Go Bearcats.
Go Bearcats. You see.